Greetings viewers, EricTheCarGuy here, back again, well, with not necessarily a repair video. Let's call this a pimp my ride kind of video. In this video, we're going to be talking a little bit about installing aftermarket electronic accessories in your vehicle. Check out what I have on the bench here. I have these strip lighting kits from Sylvania that they sent me, these Zevo kits. These are the stage 2 kits. Here's a 6-inch and here's a 12-inch kit. Before that, these are in addition to the stage 1 kit, which has all the inner workings as far as making this actually function in the vehicle. Is this something I necessarily would have chosen to do on my own? Maybe not necessarily, but if somebody like Sylvania comes to me and says, hey Eric, you want to try this out? I say sure, and why don't we make a video in the process? One of the first steps I'm going to take is to test everything out. Now the kit initially comes with the ability to hook it into the accessory socket. So it's really a very easy installation. You don't have to do any additional wiring or anything. You can just plug this into your accessory socket and basically use the adhesive and put the lights where you want them to go, and away you go. But I'm going to take things a step further with this kit, and that not only do I want to hook it up, but I want to hook it up so that it's on the ignition hot, so that in case I leave it on, it turns off when I remove the key. In order to do that, I'm going to have to do a little bit of additional work. But before I even go there, I'm going to make sure that it does work and plug it into the accessory socket. And I also have everything else plugged in here. There's a light sensor that you'll see here. So the remote actually works on infrared light, so you have to be in line of sight in order for this to turn on and off and function properly. All I got to do now is turn the key on, and they're already on. And with this sensor, I can activate them with the remote. I can turn them off and on. I can make them brighter or dimmer. Once again, I can't stress enough how important it is to be in line of sight of this sensor. So when we mount this sensor, we have to make sure we put it someplace where when we aim the remote, we can actually get to it. There's white light, blue light, green light, red light, and there's a ton of things in between. Kind of like the purple. Yeah, purple's my favorite. And we can make them flash. Hey, it's just like Christmas. Strobe, sort of glow, and we've got a fade and a smooth transition. Well, that says smooth. I kind of like the fade. All right, we verified that this works. Now that we've done that, it's time to mount this to the vehicle. It's not very practical for me to have this up here on the accessory socket. So I'm going to go down to the fuse box and see if I can find an ignition hot source to power this up with. My fuse box is located behind this panel. We've been here before in other videos. The fog light one that comes to mind. And here's the thing. I've already used, look where this red wire is. I've already used one of the spots, but this is hot all the time. This isn't just ignition hot. This is hot all the time. And I have in my hand my power probe. One thing that I recommend against, and that is taking a wire and just putting it in along the side of a fuse. That is the worst idea ever. And I've seen it a lot, and something I want to steer you away from. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is you don't know which side is actually supplying power in this fuse circuit, number one. Number two, you actually widen the gap that the fuse goes into, and you can actually create a poor connection for the accessory. Now, what I have found, hopefully you can see this here, are these 3 connections here at the fuse box. And you can see they're all grounded now. The key is off and out of the ignition. Now I'm going to insert the key and turn it on and see what happens. So you can see I have power to that one, its neighbor, and there's a ground on the end. But I have power on these first 2 circuits. And then when I turn the key off, it goes to ground. I'm going to tie into this circuit And I'm going to also put an inline fuse in to help prevent damage to the circuit. Here we are over at the bench. I've got my, well, I guess you can call it a harness. And I've talked to Sylvania about this, and they have instructions inside their packaging that say that this is okay, what I'm about to do. This just makes for easy one-step installation for those people who don't want to get involved with what I'm doing here. First step is I'm just going to cut off this adapter here. I'm going to save this. I might use it for something down the road. Then I need to strip back some of the insulation. Be links in the description to tools and such if you're interested. And you can see we have two wires here, a red and a white. I'm going to strip those as well. Right now I believe I'm going to need more wire to work with here, so I'm going to go back a bit farther. There we go, that seems a bit more reasonable. Now the red is going to supply power and the white is going to be the ground, and I can verify this with my power probe, which I'll do right now. My power probe has the ability to power things up and supply a ground. So I'm going to just clip this onto here and supply power here. Yep, it works. So I know that if I hook this up in this way, I've got it correct. The red wire is the power and it should be fused. For that, I'm going to add an inline fuse into the circuit that I have lying around here. You can probably get this at like your electronic stores like Radio Shack, something like that. Laid out before me are the players. I've got some electrical tools. I've got my soldering iron. I'll put links in the description to important stuff once again. Red goes to power, white goes to ground. They are probably, I'm going to leave myself plenty of room, but I would say, yeah, 6 inches apart or so. But the other thing I want to do is I want to add this fuse into the circuit. This is going to be my connector for inside the fuse box. Earlier what I did was I took this out of another connector, out of an electrical harness that I had, and just removed it, and it just so happens that it fits onto the pins in there really well. Here's my concern, that because both of those pins power up simultaneously, that I don't want to run the risk of this touching the other side, so I'm going to make sort of a makeshift insulation for this. And then I'm just going to slip this over the outside here, find out where that connector bends, trim it down, try to push it back a little bit more. This way I just have a little bit of that connector sticking out like that. Now I'm going to heat it, shrink it up. Not so worried about the back side of this because that's a weather pack connector, but I think that works really well. It'll give me a good electrical connection and it will insulate me. Now I will cut a little bit more of the shrink tube so that I can cover my joint here. I like to solder connections whenever possible as opposed to using butt connectors. Go ahead, laugh now. All right, now that I have that joint, I'm not gonna put the shrink tube on yet. I'm going to wait till I get this other side put together first, and then I'll worry about it then. Would have been really great if I would have put the shrink tube on first, huh? I'll be okay with electrical tape. I prefer to using shrink tube because I'm going to go around the outside of this also. But this time I won't make the same mistake. I'm sure some of you were screaming at the screen, "The shrink tube!" I couldn't hear you. For this side, I'll open it up. Maybe a little more than that. I have, as you can see, the drill caught it a little bit. For the ground connection, I'll show you when I get up under there, there's an area that already is a really good ground. I just opened up the hole a little bit so that it would fit the bolt that's already there. Special crimping pliers for this one. I'm gonna get some electrical tape for this guy here. Yeah, it's acceptable to use this. I prefer shrink tube, but sometimes you forget. And here we have our completed and updated from this to this. So normally when this is plugged in, this is gonna be the power, this is gonna be the ground. All we've done is change those connections to power and ground. Also, we have our fuse in place, just in case. All right, what I found real quick here was this is 3 times 2 amps, so it's 6 amps. So this 10 should be more than enough. Now that I have my power delivery and my ground worked out, I'm just going to sort of eyeball the general layout of where I'm going to run the wires and these lights themselves up under here. And while I'm looking at this, I've got plenty of wire coming from the power side of things and the ground side. I think what I'll do, and this is one of the main reasons I'm doing this, this is that optical sensor. I want to place that optical sensor someplace where it's out of the way, where I can attach it, and also where I can have access to it. And I'm thinking, if I'm sitting in the driver's seat like this, pointing my remote here wouldn't be nearly as good as pointing it over here. So I think I'd rather be pointing it over at the passenger side, because I'm probably going to keep the remote up here anyway. That being the case, I want to make sure that the optical sensor is mounted in such a place where it can have the greatest effect. And in doing so, I'm going to have one of these strips mounted up under the glove box here, and then I'm going to have the other one mounted on the other side. Now they're kind enough to give me extensions that I can do this with. And you notice with these connectors, there's two arrows that point towards each other. You want to make sure that you have those arrows pointing towards each other when you make that connection. Yeah, I'll have enough to run all the way back to this other side with just this one extension, so I can put this one underneath the driver's side. Looking at this, probably the easiest way to route the wiring, instead of behind up underneath the dash, the HVAC's in the way, I'm going to remove this cover in front of the subwoofer, and I'm going to route all my wiring behind it. And to do that, there's a couple of plastic clips that need to come out. There's one on the other side as well. And now I'll pull this cover forward. Hopefully that's all I got to do. Easier than I thought. This is a great place for the wiring. It all just goes up under here. Here's the ground connection. I've used this to ground my headlight, my fog light relay, and everything else also. And I'll just go for this connection first. All right, lastly, make that power connection. Well, not lastly. Lastly, as far as hooking up our power and ground. There we go. Now, just for the heck of it, I'm gonna test it, make sure that it works before I go any further. Now, I've plugged these in, and I probably should also note that if you look when you plug these into the connector, there's the arrow. That should point to that plus sign when you plug these in. Now that we're hooked up with our power and ground, these things should work as intended, to where when I put the key in, ignition on, there we go. Then when I take the key out, they go away. Pretty cool. So now we know we've got the power and ground hooked up right. Let's get these lights mounted, get the wiring situated, and see what we got. Now comes the hopefully not as difficult task of getting this wiring run and also mounting this light strip on this side. Given that the wiring is coming from that side over there, I'm going to mount this in this direction right up under this area here. Yeah, in fact, it looks like it'll just fit. Now, before I remove the adhesive and attach it, they were kind enough to give me some alcohol prep pad, which is a good idea to clean the area really well. That way the adhesive will stay longer. This is like those moist towelettes you get at like the rib joint. Oh, they gave me two. I just opened them both. I'm going to take this, go along the area. I plan to mount the light. That wasn't too dirty. Dirty enough though. And just peel back the adhesive, the sticker. Let's head to the other side and see what we can work out there. Now we need to work out this side of things on the passenger side underneath the glove box. I've got a great deal of room here for all these extra wires and things. All right, so now I have one of these twist ties that was left over that I'm just going to use to tidy up some of this wiring. There's two things that I want out of this. One is this sensor that I can put somewhere, and the other is the actual light itself. So I'm going to try to run these things up behind where this panel will sit. There's a small cover here. Looks like it'll work extremely well for mounting this. And that'll be a very clean installation. This adhesive is not happy with what I'm trying to stick it to. All right, well, there's been some difficulty in attaching this to this piece of plastic underneath the glove box here. I'm not really sure why. I did clean it with the alcohol pad. The solution, well, went for Gorilla Glue, but it was the only viable solution I could come up with to get this to stay. Hoping this will hold it in place until that glue cures. We have one last thing to concern ourselves with, and that's this sensor, which we need to mount. We've got a couple more pieces of adhesive here. There's the eyeball side, and then there's the other side, and I want to make sure that the other side is the side that's actually nailed down. I'm just thinking, as long as I have the Gorilla Glue, I'm going to use it. I'm just going to put a little dab of it on the back of this rather than this two-sided tape that I would have to cut to size that would look pretty big and kind of dopey. And I'm just going to glue this to my target area. It's either going to be a win or an epic fail, but at least you'll know better. And if this damages my dash slightly, it won't be in an area that's seen too well. All right, we'll come back when it's all put together. Everything is all hooked up electronically. The lights are as attached as they can be for now. You may notice my green clamp is still there. I'm going to leave that on there for a while, hoping that that adhesive will finally take. But now that everything's all together, I'm first going to try it out one more time and then go through with the remote. But then I'm also going to turn the lights off in the shop and we'll see what it does in the dark. Seems to illuminate a little better on this side than that side. Let's try the off. Okay, off, on, blue. I think we're going to have a lot more luck with this with the lights off. Here goes. Let's try some of the settings. That's kind of cool. All right, now as you can see, the passenger side is much brighter because the lights are pointed directly down. These are pointed on the driver's side more towards the pedals, and you really can't see them all that well. So I'm going to try to reposition this light to get that to illuminate a little better, but outside of that, I'd say we're done. All right, well, I changed the positioning on the driver's side and you can see it a lot better. I'm not able to get it to point directly down like I am on the passenger side, but I'll be happy with that. Well, that was fun. Took a little bit longer than I thought, and if you do this kind of thing, be patient, give yourself a little bit of time, try to lay things out in the area you're going to put them to try to make the installation go a bit easier. Avoid wrapping the wires, the power wires, around fuses and sticking those back into the fuse box. That's one of the main things I want you to take away from this, because that often causes other electrical issues. Now, when I stop and ask myself, was this necessary? No, but you know, it's kind of cool, and thank you, Sylvania, for sending that out. There'll be links in the description to this kit and anything else that pertains to this video, such as related videos or tools or that type of thing. So be sure to check the description if you have questions. Outside of that, if you have automotive questions, I would ask that you head over to EricTheCarGuy.com. There's a welcome video there to tell you about all the features to help you with those automotive issues, should you have them. If you wish to connect with me socially, I can be found on Google+, Facebook, Twitter, and now Instagram. I post repair videos every Friday, so stop back and see me then. I close each of my videos with be safe, have fun, and stay dirty. I'll see you next time.